Emma Walker had always lived a quiet, predictable life in her small Seattle apartment building. She had grown strangely comfortable with the silence that filled her rooms. She worked from home, rarely saw family, and only had a handful of acquaintances she waved to while collecting her mail. But everything changed the day Ethan Brooks moved into the building. He wasn't loud or overly friendly, but he had a gentle confidence that made people relax around him. He smiled easily, held the elevator door even if it meant waiting longer, and spoke with sincerity that felt rare. For someone like Emma Sohn, who had forgotten what real connection felt like. Ethan's presence slowly woke up something inside her. Their friendship didn't begin with anything dramatic. It was simple things, short conversations about the weather, brief laughter in the laundry room, small moments where their eyes met and lingered a second too long. Emma didn't think much of it at first. But loneliness has a way of making tiny things feel big. And Ethan had a warmth that filled spaces Emma didn't even know were empty. Over time, their conversations grew longer and more personal. They talked about work, childhood memories, favorite books, and the foods they hated. Some evenings, when they found each other checking mail at the same time, they ended up standing in the hallway for nearly an hour, talking about topics neither of them usually shared with anyone. Emma tried not to let her imagination wander. She knew Ethan was married. She saw Lily, his wife, only a few times, a graceful woman with dark hair, who always looked like she had 1,000 things on her mind. Lily was polite but distant, and Emma assumed she was simply busy. There was no reason for Emma to think anything was wrong in their marriage. But the more time she spent with Ethan, the more she felt the quiet tension in him. He never complained, never said he was unhappy, but there was a softness in his eyes when he talked to Emma that didn't match the coolness he carried. When he spoke about his home life, Emma tried to push the thought away. She didn't want to be the kind of woman who hoped for cracks in someone else's relationship. Still, she couldn't deny how natural things felt with him. One rainy afternoon, Ethan showed up at her door holding a container of homemade chicken soup. Emma had been sick the previous week and mentioned it casually in passing, never expecting him to remember. But he stood there with the warm container, rainwater dripping from his jacket, and smiled like bringing her soup was the most normal thing in the world. Emma tried to insist she was fine, that he didn't need to do this, but he just said, "It's cold outside." Thought this might help. His voice was gentle, nothing demanding or strange, and yet the moment felt more intimate than it should have. Emma thanked him, trying to ignore the way her heart reacted to his kindness. It was only soup, but also not just soup. After that day, their connection deepened in unspoken ways. They didn't flirt, didn't touch, didn't cross any obvious lines. And yet they kept drifting closer to a line neither wanted to admit existed. Their conversations became the highlight of Emma's days. She felt understood again, seen again, something she hadn't felt in years. But she never said anything, and he didn't either. They simply existed in that quiet, warm space of almost something. One evening, everything shifted. Ethan stopped by to return a book Emma had lent him. It wasn't unusual. He often came over for small reasons that didn't feel small anymore. They ended up talking in her kitchen, standing only a few feet apart while the scent of her vanilla candle mixed with the rain outside. The air felt different, slower, heavier, charged with something neither wanted to look at directly. Their voices were soft. Their smiles lingered. Their eyes met and stayed locked a little too long. Emma felt her breath catch, felt the world shrink around them until it felt like they were the only two people alive. She didn't want anything to happen, but she also didn't want the moment to end. Just as Ethan's expression softened in a way that made Emma's heart almost stop. The front door swung open. Lily stood there. Time froze. Emma's entire body went cold. She stepped back so fast she hit the edge of her table. Ethan's voice caught in his throat. They looked like they had been caught doing something wrong, even though nothing physical had happened. Lily didn't raise her voice. She didn't slam the door. She just stared quiet, still, and heartbreakingly aware. Her eyes weren't angry. They were wounded. Like she'd finally discovered the answer to a question she had been afraid to ask herself. "I knew something was happening, Lily said softly, her voice trembling but controlled. I just didn't know what. Emma's shame washed over her so intensely she felt dizzy. She lifted her hands, palms open, her voice cracking. Lily, I swear nothing happened. Nothing inappropriate. We were just talking. Ethan stepped forward. Lily, she's telling the truth. But Lily shook her head, not in disagreement, but in deep sadness. It's not about what you did, she whispered. It's about why you're here. Why you felt closer to her than to me? The words hit Ethan like a blow. He didn't deny it. He didn't try to hide. His silence said everything. Emma wanted to run, to disappear. To take back every moment she had, let herself feel close to Ethan. She never wanted to hurt anyone. And Lily, seeing her look so calm while clearly breaking, made Emma's guilt unbearable. But then something unexpected happened. Lily didn't yell. She didn't plead. Instead, she turned to Ethan with a look full of exhaustion and truth. Maybe this isn't about her, Lily said. Maybe this is about us. Maybe we've been more distant than we realized. Ethan's brows knit together. Lily, what do you mean? Lily swallowed hard. I mean, I've been lonely too. Kima felt her stomach twist. She hadn't expected that. Ethan looked shocked as well. Lily took a breath and said, something none of them saw coming. There's someone I've been talking to. Someone who listens to me. Someone who makes me feel like I exist. Ethan stepped back like her words physically pushed him. Who? Lily didn't answer. Not directly. She just whispered, someone who noticed me when I needed it. The room felt suddenly full of truths none of them knew how to hold. Ethan looked lost. Emma felt her heart beating so loudly she could barely hear anything else. She didn't know whether she should speak, apologize again, or simply step away and let them sort out their marriage. But Lily wasn't finished. She turned toward the hallway, her voice softer now. I need time to think. And you do too. Without waiting for a response, Lily left the room, her steps slow, heavy, and deeply controlled. Ethan followed after her, but Lily didn't stop. She walked down the hallway, disappearing into the dim light near the stairwell. Ethan turned back to Emma for a moment. His expression wasn't angry or guilty. It was simply broken. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't want this. Emma shook her head. It's not your fault. I should have kept more distance. I'm sorry too, Ethan. He didn't respond. He just nodded once, then walked away to try to reach Lily, leaving Emma standing alone in the quiet apartment that suddenly felt too big for her. Emma closed the door slowly, leaned against it, and tried to breathe. She didn't know what had just happened. She didn't know if she had ruined something or if she had simply uncovered something that was already broken. All she knew was that the warm connection she shared with Ethan was now tangled in layers of pain, confusion, and emotional truths that belonged to more than just the two of them. What she didn't know, what none of them knew that night, was that Lily wasn't walking away to end anything. She was walking towards someone who had been quietly waiting on the edges of her life. Someone who had been offering her the same kind of emotional comfort Ethan had unknowingly offered Emma, and that discovery would change everything for all four of them. The days after that rainy evening felt heavy for everyone. Emma tried to focus on her work, but every sound in the hallway made her heart race. She avoided the stairwell where she might run into Ethan or Lily. Even though she longed to know if everything would return to normal, Ethan, meanwhile, was distant yet tense. He stopped by occasionally, but the conversations were short, cautious, and awkward. There was a careful politeness in the way he spoke, as if he feared Emma's presence might ignite emotions they could no longer control. But she also noticed the subtle sadness in his eyes. He looked tired, not physically, but emotionally, like a man who had been holding onto something fragile for too long, and was now unsure if it could survive. Emma's guilt and worry weighed on her constantly. She replayed that night in her mind countless times, wondering if she should have said something, done something differently. Anything that could have prevented the tension she now felt pressing against her chest. And yet, despite all the caution, she couldn't deny the way her heart still reacted whenever Ethan came near. There was an unspoken warmth, a softness between them that no one else could fully understand. It wasn't dangerous or intentional. It was simply the quiet pull of human connection. But human connection had a way of creating questions that no one had answers for. And Emma felt every single one. Meanwhile, Lily seemed to have shifted her attention elsewhere. She had disappeared for long hours, often returning home with a faint brightness in her eyes, as if she had found pieces of herself that had been missing for months. At first, Ethan assumed she was simply seeking solitude. He respected her space and tried to keep his own emotions contained. But slowly, he began to notice subtle signs. The way she smiled differently. The way her conversation with him had become more distant, yet more thoughtful. It was as if she had discovered a new rhythm to her life, something that didn't depend solely on him, yet included him in unexpected ways. Then one evening, the moment of revelation arrived. Emma was watering her small balcony plants when she saw Lily come down the hallway with a man Emma recognized, a neighbor named Daniel, a quiet, steady man who lived 2 floors below. Emma had seen him in passing, always polite, always reserved, but tonight he seemed different. He walked beside Lily with an ease and comfort that caught her attention immediately. They didn't hold hands or display any overt gestures. It was subtle, yet the connection was unmistakable. Emma's chest tightened as she realized Lily had found someone outside of her marriage to help her feel seen again. There was no anger in Emma's heart, only a mix of surprise and understanding. Life had a way of reshaping itself in ways no one could predict. Ethan, noticing Lily's absence and her sudden reappearance with Daniel, followed them into the lobby, a storm of emotions clouding his usually calm demeanor. His heart sank, not because of betrayal, but because the truth was more complicated than he had imagined. The hallway seemed smaller, more confined, as all the unspoken emotions hung thickly in the air. He wanted to speak, to ask questions, but the words caught in his throat. Lily didn't need to explain in detail. Her calm composure, the quiet assurance in her movements, and the gentle glance she gave Daniel spoke volumes. He wasn't threatened. He simply observed, trying to comprehend the shifting dynamics of a life he thought he fully understood. Emma watched from her balcony, unsure whether to retreat or remain an observer. She didn't want to intrude, yet curiosity pulled her forward. This wasn't about scandal or betrayal. It was about discovery. For people, all seeking connection and understanding, were navigating the messy, unpredictable nature of the heart. Emma had thought she and Ethan's friendship might have been the source of trouble. But now she realized it was part of a much larger picture. Lily had been lonely in ways Ethan hadn't noticed, and Daniel had offered a gentle reminder of who she had been before routine and expectation dulled her. Spirit, Lily spoke first, her voice soft but filled with clarity. Ethan, I think we both forgot how to see each other, she said. We've been so caught up in our lives that we forgot to notice what's important. I needed someone to remind me I exist, and I found that in Daniel. She didn't speak to accuse or hurt. She spoke to express a truth that had been quietly growing inside her. Ethan felt a pang of sorrow, but also relief. At least the truth was out. At least honesty had entered a space where uncertainty had once ruled. Ethan struggled to respond. Lily, I don't know what to say, he admitted. His voice was low, vulnerable, unlike the calm, collected man people saw in the building's hallways. Emma felt a tug in her chest, not from jealousy, but from empathy. Ethan's emotions were raw and human, and in that moment she realized how deeply complicated love could be. It was not about blame or wrongdoing. It was about recognizing human needs, acknowledging unmet desires, and accepting that life often forced people to grow in directions they never anticipated. Lily turned to Daniel with a warmth that was both gentle and revealing. You reminded me of who I was before I felt invisible, she said. Daniel nodded, his calm demeanor providing the stability Lily needed. It wasn't a dramatic confession. It was a quiet, profound acknowledgement of a bond built on patience and understanding. Ethan, standing a few feet away, realized that the woman he loved had changed. Not because she wanted to hurt him, but because she had found someone who gave her what he hadn't. It was a subtle heartbreak. one without anger, but heavy with the weight of unspoken emotion. Emma, still watching, felt an unexpected shift inside herself. She realized that her own feelings for Ethan were part of a larger tapestry of human connection. None of it was about winning or losing. It was about learning to navigate the complexities of love, honesty, and companionship. She felt a strange sense of relief that the situation was unfolding with grace rather than chaos. No one screamed. No one betrayed. No one was left humiliated. Instead, four hearts were quietly, painfully discovering the truth about themselves and each other. Lily continued. Turning back to Ethan, I'm not angry about what I saw between you and Emma, she said softly. I'm sad that it wasn't me you felt warm with. But I also understand that connection can happen in many forms. You and Emma share something, and I share something with Daniel. Maybe this is simply life reminding us that we are all human and in need of understanding. Her words were calm, rational, and full of emotional maturity. Ethan felt both relief and sorrow. Relief that there was no anger, sorrow that the closeness he shared with Emma could never be the same with Lily. Ethan took a deep breath. Feeling the tension in his chest loosen slightly, I understand, he said. He glanced at Emma, who gave him a quiet, knowing nod. No words were necessary. Their connection remained, but now it existed in a space of honesty and boundaries. Emma's heart felt heavy, yet lighter at the same time. She realized that love could be complicated, that feelings were not always possession, and that sometimes the truest act of affection was stepping back and letting others find their own happiness. The hallway, once heavy with tension, now carried a subtle calm. Lily held Daniel's arm lightly, their steps in sync. Ethan's posture softened, and he gave Emma a small, almost shy smile. Emma returned it, understanding that the moment was not about loss, but about clarity. For people had confronted truths they had ignored, and while nothing was simple, there was honesty. And honesty, Emma knew, was a rare and precious gift. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt a sense of closure and possibility. She realized that her story with Ethan wasn't about passion or drama. It was about connection, empathy, and the quiet recognition of what makes people feel alive. She also understood that Lily's journey with Daniel wasn't a betrayal, but a chance for her to rediscover herself. Love, she thought, didn't always fit into neat boxes. Sometimes it reshaped itself quietly, like water carving a new path around rocks in a riverbed. It was not predictable, not always easy, but real. As Lily and Daniel walked down the hallway, their laughter soft and unforced. Ethan looked at Emma one last time before stepping into his apartment. His eyes were filled with a mixture of gratitude, understanding, and unresolved longing. Emma smiled faintly, feeling the echo of connection still warm in her chest. She knew life wouldn't be simple after this, but it was honest. And honesty was stronger than illusion. It was the foundation on which all meaningful relationships could grow, even if they didn't take the shape she had once imagined. Emma returned to her apartment and closed the door, leaning against it with a deep, steady breath. She realized that her story, her journey with connection, with understanding, and with the unpredictable paths of human hearts, was only beginning. The emotional waves of that night had left marks, but they were not scars. They were reminders. Reminders that life could surprise, teach, and heal all at once. She smiled faintly, feeling a strange mixture of longing, relief, and anticipation. Somehow everything had changed, yet everything felt ready to begin anew. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the soft light of street lamps. Emma looked out at the quiet city, feeling a sense of possibility she hadn't known in years. Relationships were complicated, feelings were unpredictable, and hearts could wander in ways that seemed impossible to control. But the one thing that remained constant was truth.